So the key to being highly paid in your industry, the key is to be seen as an expert. How does someone know you're an expert? They know you're an expert because you're constantly delivering amazing and valuable content. They know you're an expert because the moment they land on your website or on your Facebook page, they're overwhelmed with the value and the content and the experience that they have. But the question is, how do you become an expert? Or more importantly, how do you become a master at what you do? So today we're going to be talking about creating your mastery plan to become the world's best at what you do. Now, this is such an important conversation because most people are really accidental or unintentional about their progress in their business. And the reality is, it's so easy to win at the game of business. It's so easy to win in this game of being an influencer because most people are not intentionally growing and evolving and becoming more. There's a quote that I want you to remember, and it says this. It says, in seasons of change, I just want you to think, are we in a season of change? Things are changing faster than they've ever changed before. In seasons of change, the learners will inherit the earth, while the learned will find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. So our job is to be learners and to be intentionally moving down our path in the mastery plan. So I want to share with you a couple principles and then give you a very specific outline to focus on if you want to be the world's best at what you do, and how to compress the learning curve. So rather than taking years and years and years, it can take a very short amount of time if you're focused and deliberate in following this master plan. So there's this framework called the levels of learning. And these are the levels that we all go through on the path to mastery. And for everyone, it begins with this first stage of learning. And this is called unconscious incompetence. This is where we don't know what we don't know. We simply are oblivious to the things that are possible, and we don't know and understand the tools that are even available. Unconscious incompetence is where all of us start. This is where we all start as children, and many of us as adults, even as we look at the things we want to be great at, are unaware or unconscious of the things that are possible out there. But I want you to identify right now one area in your business that you know if you want to be the world's best, you must master. So let me give you some suggestions of things that you should focus on mastering if you want to be great at business. Number one, obviously focusing on mastering that skill of serving your clients in the way that's unique to you. So you can be really well known. For some people it's in breakthroughs, for some people it's in real estate, for some people it's in different forms of coaching or different modalities that you have, but being able to focus on being great at that skill. The second key, once you have that skill, is knowing how to deliver that skill to your people. So the second skill is the skill of marketing. Marketing is the skill of being able to take that message and share it so that your audience knows that you can help them. The third skill that is required for mastery in business is the skill of sales and enrollment, being effective at being able to invite people and enroll them into whatever it is that you're offering. And the fourth skill is being able to really serve those clients and building the systems in business that allow you to grow and scale. So when you think about any of these things, you have to go through these processes. At the beginning, you're not going to know what you don't know. You won't know, let's say in marketing, all the different marketing tools are out there or how to get the message out. But this is a place to begin. After this, the first big leap is when we move to a space of conscious incompetence. The power of this stage, conscious incompetence, is now at least we know how ignorant we are. And that's a huge step. Sometimes it's overwhelming when we look and realize, oh my gosh, we see how all of these other people that are getting the results, what they're doing, and we realize that we're really bad at it. But this stage, at least we become conscious and we begin to become aware of the things that we need to focus on and begin working on. Next element of the path to mastery is the journey of conscious competence. This is where we've gained the skills, but it takes a lot of focus and effort for us to get the result. It hasn't become second nature, but if we really focus intentionally, we can make things happen. And our goal in this path to mastery is to get to this level, which is unconscious competence. At this level, it becomes part of our identity. It's just who we are, and it becomes so natural and effortless for us to be able to do it. But this takes time to get to. It takes practice, it takes failure. And I want you to remember this. If you want to be great at anything, you must be willing to suck at it first. That's right, you must be willing to suck. So just go ahead and say to yourself, I'm willing to suck because I'm committed to being great. Like, I want you to understand the power of that, because there's no way to progress this without, falling down and making some mistakes along the way. So just to give you an example, unconscious incompetence, I want you to, if you've ever driven a stick shift, if you ever learned how to drive a car with a stick shift, this is the example that I use when sharing this. Like, when I first learned how to drive a stick shift, it was back in college, and we had this 88 Honda Accord, and I remember, like, before I had that car, when I was a kid, I didn't even know what a stick shift is. I didn't understand what that thing was that my parents were using. I was just oblivious. That was the stage of unconscious competence. And then I got married, and I started to learn how to drive a stick shift because that's what my wife had. And so at that time, it was so clumsy and so awkward, and I realized that I didn't know what I was doing. I was clueless. But then I went in a parking lot. I had a mentor, which happened to be my wife at the time, and it was so clumsy and so awkward. But little by little, I started to figure out how to do all of the pieces that are required. But during the stage of conscious competence, it requires all of this mental energy every time I would start. And I remember there was this hill, near our house where, the first couple times where I would stop at the stop sign, and I need to do all of the things all at one time, right? And I'm lifting up the clutch and putting on the gas and shifting the gear and releasing the brake and doing all of those different things. There was this very deliberate process that I had to go through in my mind, trying to not stall or grind the gears. Does this make sense? But I started to learn little by little. I failed, I stalled, I ground the gears, but little by little I became conscious and competent so that I could drive from one point to another and get there okay. And then after years of driving, I got to the space of unconscious competence where I didn't even realize that I was driving a stick shift anymore. I didn't even think about it. It was just completely automatic. Does this make sense? Or I could literally be shifting gears. I could be talking on the phone and eating a hamburger all at the same time, and I'm not recommending that, but that's the level of unconscious competence. You just become a master of it where you just don't even think, it just becomes so natural. So I want to translate this to your business. If you want to build a highly impactful, influential business as a leader, then you must commit to graduating the skill of mastery and focusing on deliberately creating the skills that are important for you to be that expert that other people are pursuing and looking to. So there's this process that I'm going to invite you to lean into. And it's a simple process of creating daily mastery time. I recommend that you spend a minimum of 30 minutes to 60 minutes a day. You could spend up to 2 hours, but I recommend that you invest this time carefully and intentionally into building the skill set required. Now, Seth Godin, in one of his books, teaches this principle about 10,000 hours. He says that anyone that's a true master has spent at least 10,000 hours doing it. You think of any tennis player, or any piano player, or any musician, any professional athlete, anyone that's achieved a huge level of prominence in their industry, they've spent a minimum of 10,000 hours developing and practicing those skills intentionally. Now, I believe that with most things, you can condense that in terms of learning how to master that if you're intentional about it. And it's not just about the hours, because there's plenty of people that do the same thing over and over again, but they're never actually improving with it. So it's the intentional practice that's important. So I'm going to share with you some ideas to build into your daily mastery time. Once again, minimum of 30 minutes, but ideally 60 minutes or more, where you're focusing on developing and practicing those skills that are going to help accelerate you down the business. And really recommend focusing on the skills of marketing and communication and enrollment as skills to intentionally practice. So let me walk you through and invite you to create your own mastery plan based on these aspects. So in terms of your mastery plan, your path of being an expert, I'm going to invite you to create a list or a document that includes these things. Number one, get clear on what is it that you want to be an expert of? What do you want to be known for? How do you want to be seen in the world? What do you want people to think when they think of your name? Oh, wow, she's an expert of this, or he's an expert of this. What do you want to be seen as an expert of? Second, identify what are the skills that you need to practice and to master to really be the best in your industry, to be great at that. So get really intentional. Once again, is it the skill of communication? Is it the skill of leading events? Is it the skill of marketing? Is it the skill of sales and enrollment? Is it the skill of building online funnels? Whatever it is, just identify the skills that you want to develop. And if you look at that on a scale of 1 to 10 and you look at where you're currently at a level 1 or level 2, don't be intimidated by that. That's a perfect place to start. You're just at the stages of unconscious incompetence, maybe conscious incompetence. That's fine. That's part of the learning path. And as long as you commit to this daily mastery time, you're going to very quickly accelerate through the path of conscious competence and then eventually get to the place of unconscious competence. But it's the path that we all must go through. So just remember, if I want to be great at anything, I must be willing to suck at it first. So define what is the specific skill that you want to focus on developing. And I'm going to encourage you to pick only one, maybe two skills that you want to focus on at first. What would that be? So let's just take the skill of marketing, for instance. If you want to be great at the skill of marketing, then this is where we figure out the mastery plan. So the next piece that I'm going to invite you to identify is to create an education map, an education plan. This is where you get really intentional. What are the books that you should study? The beautiful thing is there's so much wisdom already out there from people that already are a master of this. And so finding those mentors, finding those people that you can study and learn from is absolutely critical. Like, you don't need to figure this out on your own. That's a beautiful thing. So find those books. How do you know which books to study? Well, talk to other people in your industry. Talk to other people that have already created what you want and just ask them, what are the best books you would recommend around marketing? What are the best books you would recommend around sales? Or what are the best books you would recommend around coaching or whatever other skill you want to develop? And start creating your list. And I'm going to encourage you to just take one book at a time. You know, if you want to accelerate your path so super fast, then make it a goal to read one book per week. But be intentional about moving through the books and gaining the wisdom that are required. In addition to books, there's other education resources that you can look at too. So there's courses from other mentors, there's workshops you can attend. And in building your mastery plan, there's videos, there's just other ways to do it. So in building your mastery plan, all you want to do is brainstorm and create a list. You don't need to do it all at once. Don't overwhelm yourself, but have something every day that you're studying to develop that skill. So the second aspect of your mastery plan after your education and figuring out the books is figuring out who are the experts you can either interview or mentor with. So it could be as simple as finding people in your industry and just taking them out for lunch and just talking. So tell me, what are you doing? What did you learn? And just having like this mastermind experience where you can pick someone's brain and talk to them and share different ideas. Or being intentionally in a mastermind group where you can share best practices. Or having a mentor that's actually intentionally guiding you through the process and helping you develop and nurture that skill. You know, we all need coaches. That's obviously why we're working together, is because we need these people in our life. But create that list of different experts. And it could be, once again, as simple as just hopping on the phone with someone or taking them out for lunch, but always be interviewing, always be talking to people, be curious about other people in the industry and leverage that opportunity to mastermind and gain that. So the next aspect, after you gain that wisdom, is to implement it and take it into real world experience. This is where it gets translated from conceptual conscious incompetence, or maybe even conscious competence, to unconscious competence, where you're practicing it daily, over and over. And so whenever you're reading or studying, you want to make sure that you're plugging that in to application. Without the application, it's just what we call mental masturbation. It's just like, it's really cool that you're thinking about it, but it doesn't mean anything in terms of developing the skill. Just imagine if you kept reading books about how to ride a bike, and you're reading books and you're watching videos, but you actually never got on a bike to try to ride it, right? Like, it's ridiculous. You would never do that. You can't learn tennis by only reading books and expecting it to translate to you being a champion tennis player, right? You have to get on the court. You have to do the work of practicing that over and over again. So create experience. So in your mastery hour, maybe what you could do is take 30 minutes of learning, growing, and then take the next 30 minutes of implementing or teaching or sharing or applying those things directly in your business immediately. And then you do it again. But build this time into your day for you to apply this. And it all comes down to blocking off time in your schedule where this can happen. So this is where it gets real. You've watched this video, you've looked at this, you think, yeah, Gerald, that makes sense. I can see that if I want to become a master, I need to dedicate time to do this. But this is where it gets real, because if you don't actually go ahead and put it in your calendar right now, this means nothing, and you'll find yourself 3 months from now, 6 months from now, being in pretty much about the same space you are right now. But if you apply this and dedicate time in your business where you're working on your business rather than in your business, you'll see this massive growth happen. Now, for some people think, oh my gosh, I'm too busy. I don't have an extra hour to do it. Like, I promise you, if you can build this in and make it a priority, you'll find time to do everything else, and you'll become so much better at what you do, you'll be able to get more done in less time. So do not neglect this time. Put it in your schedule, make it non-negotiable, and watch how fast you accelerate to that stage of unconscious competence, where you are the expert that everyone is pursuing and following. So do this right now. Put it in your calendar, make it a daily practice, and watch what happens in your life as you choose to be legendary.